So, Kedar, see, the affordability of electric vehicles is a myth for the majority. See, people, they focus on the expensive upfront cost, but people forget that it is actually cheaper to operate, and hence the lifetime cost of vehicle is actually peanuts.
Crispy Perspectives.
Guys, namaste, namaskar. Welcome to another show of the Perspective Club podcast. In today's Crispy Perspectives, we are going to be talking about the future of owning a vehicle. We have with us, as always, our EV connoisseur, Sahil. Sahil, welcome to the show once again.
Hi, Kedar, thanks for having me today.
There's always been this myth on the field, across the industry that owning an electric vehicle is much more expensive than owning a conventional vehicle. Is it really that expensive?
Your question, Kedar, is correct, but it's incomplete. Owning a vehicle is not just about the capital cost of ownership, not just the cost you spend to buy the vehicle. It is also about the entire lifetime cost that you spend to actually operate the vehicle. And if you look at that, the operating cost is peanuts. Hence, the lifetime cost is actually very affordable as compared to your ICE competitors. So, hence, yes, EV might be expensive to own, but in the lifetime cost scenario, it's actually better.
That's great. And I also noticed that certain vehicles like the Hyundai Kona, which have both an electric model as well as a gasoline model, where the electric model is already cheaper to acquire upfront uh, in compared to the gasoline model. But are there any other benefits or any other additions that people can avail of when buying an electric vehicle? Is it just the pure acquisition cost, or is there any other reductions that they can make use of?
So, Kedar, I agree that the electric vehicle cost is much higher. But the cost is higher because you're also buying the battery. The battery cost is like a 30-40% component of the vehicle. So if let us say there was a 100k vehicle, 40k is just the battery cost. But now you're actually able to buy the vehicle without the battery. So let us say you bought a vehicle without a battery, it would be 60k, and then you get a battery subscription, and these models do exist when battery as a service is now a popularized model. So that way the vehicle upfront cost comes on parity, and your battery is no longer risky because it's an operator who's going to help you out with it. So eventually these crispy new business models are going to help you with that.
मेरे दोस्त लोग हमेशा बोलते हैं कि there are two things that you can't avoid in life. One is death and the other one is taxes. And bringing this to the perspective of EVs, does it mean that if I own an EV, I have to pay more taxes?
No. Actually, if you own an EV, you have to pay less taxes. So you don't have to pay road taxes in multiple scenarios. And if you're owning an EV, and if you take a loan on top of it, your loan can actually be taken in as an income tax rebate, and it'll definitely help you in the long run. So yes, if you own an EV, your taxes are lower as compared to owning an ICE vehicle.
Beautiful, sounding better and better. And I also read in another article last year that you've had operational people from one of the states in India, Tamil Nadu,
Mhm.
looking at implementing LEZs or low emission zones in the middle of cities. This is somehow meaning that it becomes much more expensive to operate polluting vehicles or conventional vehicles within these LEZs. What's your take on that?
That's very true. And Kedar, trust me, this is going to be the future. Eventually, every metro city is going to have LEZs. Some metro cities have started a pseudo version of it. For example, Delhi has a pseudo version of it. And in the developed part of the nation of the world, in places like Paris, etc., there are LEZs operational. And there are two ways to look at electric vehicle subsidies. One is you incentivize getting an electric vehicle, and two is you disincentivize owning an ICE vehicle. And LEZs are a way to disincentivize, and it works wonders because the parking is almost unavailable. To enter, there is a fee, and also in some cases, there is also restrictions to enter. And hence, if you were to own an ICE vehicle, many luxury car companies are now coming up with hybrid alternatives because you might not want an EV, but then your ICE vehicle might have a battery pack where you can switch to electric mode if you're entering into a low emission zone. So, if not directly subsidizing electric, there is another way through LEZs to disincentivize the ICEs to, fuel the electric revolution.
Right. And when we've spoken a lot on ownership, but what about operations, right? You also mentioned operationally an electric vehicle is much more cheaper than a conventional vehicle. Can you elaborate a bit more on that?
See, operationally, it is very cheap, is very true because the cost of the fuel by itself is very, very low. And in some cases, see, you cannot produce petrol at home, but electricity you can. If you have solar panels installed and you have like a net metering solution, you can produce your own electricity. So basically, your cost of operations, at least on the fuel side, is absolutely zero. And there are multiple cases of owners who have done this in the past.
Fuel costs aside, what about maintenance? Because that's one of the big hurdles that especially EVs face in the Indian market, right? Because users, I know myself personally as well, if I even notice the slightest hint of something going wrong, I just run over to my customer service center and ask, hey guys, is that also the case, where you have so much maintenance that EVs are also becoming much more difficult to maintain and much more expensive?
So Kedar, see, maintenance of any machine happens when there are moving parts and liquids within it, right? And electric vehicles have close to 300 times less moving parts. So if we are going to have less moving parts, the maintenance is going to be less, of course. And the entire EV is powered by a brushless DC motor, a BLDC motor. And here there is no micro blasts that happen, or there is no moving parts with friction. There is absolutely no contact inside the motor because the motor runs on electrical induction. So because of this, the friction losses are the lowest, the efficiency is the highest, and the maintenance costs are very, very low.
Maintenance costs might be low, then I'm also getting a vision of a doubt, because regardless of whatever cost they may be, you still need to have people qualified enough to fix them, right? And then we have the benefit of having in India a huge labor force who've been trained over the last, let's say, 2-3 generations to ऐसे चट से if you take a scooty or a bike or a car, petrol car, to the service center, they can fix stuff for you. Does this labor force now have to be upskilled in order to repair or maintain electric vehicles? And that might itself be a very expensive affair, right? So is that the reality?
So Kedar, that is the reality, but that is also not a scary reality. It's very simple. It's very simple. Think of it. See, when ATMs were introduced in India back then, there was a big uprising. People were rioting against it, saying that there will be loss of jobs. And look at the banking industry today. It is thriving. That is how it is, buddy. See, right now there are extremely low wages for people who repair your vehicles. But eventually, if the skills increase and if the technological parameters of whatever repairs are going to be complex in terms of technology, you are going to earn a lot more, and that will be super beneficial for job seekers. And hence, if not the skilling side, the benefits from the compensation sides will increase, and hence eventually the uh, the workforce will start skilling themselves, and it will work out. It will definitely do.
Got it. I mean, we've sort of determined now throughout our chat that okay, hey, it is affordable, and of course, if not affordable, definitely lower across the lifetime of a vehicle, especially when it's an electric vehicle, to own and operate it. Now, I'm currently sitting in Germany, and both in Europe as well as in America, cars don't just have a first-hand market, but they also have a second-hand market, where if you buy a car for thousands of dollars or euros first-hand, you can expect it to drop by a magnitude. By it, I've seen second-hand cars being sold for hundreds of dollars. It's super cheap, especially very very affordable for the people who cannot buy.
Not thousands of
Um,
dollars, just hundreds of dollars.
Absolutely, yeah. I can definitely say that magnitude of time. I've seen people find cars on eBay. Of course, you don't know how real or how true those advertisements are, um, but they are definitely magnitude of time cheaper than first-hand vehicles. So, is it also the fact that when you have petrol cars that are so cheap to buy second-hand, are EVs also going to be more expensive in the second-hand market, or are you also seeing a shift over there?
So think of a petrol versus an EV car in a very simple term of the usable components. So your battery is going to have a second life for sure, because if your battery has some juice left in it, it can still be used as a stationary battery inside your homes as an inverter battery. So your batteries are going to have a second life, hence there is a market. And now talking about your vehicle, I told you, the friction, the moving parts, the moving liquids, everything is low. The only moving liquid in an electric vehicle is the AC fluids. That's it. There is no other moving liquids. So if you talk of the second life, the vehicle is going to be amazing. You can sell it off and you can still get definite returns out of it. But of course, if you are now talking about the number values of how much exactly am I going to get, uh, the second life markets of electric vehicles have not matured yet. So I really cannot make a number. But I can definitely tell you that I'm very confident that there will be definite value for the second life of electric vehicles as well.
Okay, so EVs becoming affordable in the main first-hand car market. EVs still indecisive on how they will perform second-hand markets, but it's really not fair for us to homogenize EVs just as a broad sector, because you have lots of different segments, right? You have, I think, India being the largest three-wheeler market in the world, also ranked in the top 2-3 in two-wheelers and buses. So how do we then see this ownership trickle down to these different segments? Is it going to be that an EV is more expensive than a conventional vehicle when it comes to two-wheelers, but cheaper when it comes to four-wheelers, or somewhere else, something else?
Wow. So now we have come to a very technical concept of total cost of ownership, TCO. So TCO is different for different segments. The first segment you mentioned is two-wheeler, three-wheeler. So two-wheeler, three-wheelers ka capital cost, that is the cost to purchase the vehicle by itself, is almost as equal to its competitors. So that is where the capital expenditure comes closer to each other, and the operating parameters are in such a way that these vehicles are generally purchased by the fleet owners. And fleet owners have very, very large operational parameters. They run the vehicles at their maximum capacity in terms of the kilometers every day. So per kilometer cost of an EV is minuscule, while the per kilometer cost of a petrol, diesel, CNG vehicle is dependent on the petrol, diesel, and CNG cost of the market. And hence, two-wheeler and three-wheelers, they thrive very well in terms of TCO. And in multiple cases, we have seen that governments across the world eventually stop giving subsidies for two-wheeler and three-wheelers, because already people have identified that these vehicles are beneficial and these vehicles are giving returns. So, with or without the subsidy, the demand is very high. Moving to the next one, think of four-wheelers. Now, four-wheelers, it's a tricky topic, because if you are an owner of a four-wheeler, that is an individual owner, the TCO might or might not be comfortable for you. But if you are a fleet owner, then yes, eventually your TCO is going to make sense. But if you are looking at it only and only from the financial benefits, the financial benefits will be better in the future. But at the moment, they might not make a lot of sense. But well, that doesn't mean that there is no economic benefit. You will save on taxes, you will save on parking, you will save on many other things. Eventually you'll also get subsidies, etc. So well, moving on, the buses. The buses are thriving, and I tell you this because very recently I read an article where Mumbai's public transport bus system, the BEST, they recorded profits in their years and years of existence. This was the first time they could say they're profitable, and that is because they got in electric buses. See, that is because they were able to take these buses and not own them, but only operate them. So they got these buses on only and only the operational contracts. These are called as GCC, gross cost contracts. Per kilometer, they pay a certain fee to the operator has to come operate, and they will get fair revenue. And it has been very profitable for BST, and now it has been something which has become a norm across India, and if not just India, across the world. So buses ke case mein, yes, buses make tremendous sense, and because they are also profitable. And the last segment, trucks. The truck market is not evolved as much as any other market right now. Typically because trucks have to carry a very huge payload. The battery by itself is a huge payload, because if you were to haul that kind of load with the truck, you have to have a very huge battery pack. And that huge battery pack is going to reduce the capacity of your truck. So there are experiments happening where they are trying to optimize this battery pack size versus the truck capacity versus the range versus the performance. But I'm also very optimistic that yes, eventually even the trucks will be profitable as well as feasible for all markets. So two-wheeler, three-wheeler, it's a thumbs up. Four-wheeler, maybe thumbs up, maybe thumbs down. Buses, a very, very big thumbs up. And trucks, a thumbs up incoming very soon.
Awesome. And thank you for that codified table as well and towards the end. Okay, so investment छोड़ो, okay fine, investment है, with investing into anything, it brings with it a certain amount of risk. But apart from the investment, what is the biggest risk when owning an EV?
Well, a battery is one of the risks.
What do you mean when you say battery? Do you mean fire? Because I've seen that Bangalore car catching fire thing has almost become a meme now. Do you mean that?
So Kedar, okay, I'll explain this in a simpler manner. Have you ever gone around on a petrol motorcycle or a petrol scooter?
Absolutely.
The petrol engine has thousands of micro blasts happening almost every minute, and that's too between your legs. So you're okay with having thousands of micro blasts happening right between your legs, but you won't trust the technology that's that's coming for the future.
Fair analogy. But then, of course, there is also the case where, there are certain times where a vehicle is just completely standing still, an electric vehicle, not doing anything, just in the sun out there at 40, 45 degrees. And suddenly, boom. What about those? Are those edge cases or what's happening there?
When a child is born, the child doesn't run on the first day. It takes a year. Our EVs are coming there. Let them make mistakes, but they're failing fast and they're learning fast. Our technology is growing faster than mankind will, and very soon we will have extremely safe batteries, which I think will easily outlast the safety of your petrol and diesel engines.
Beautiful. Now, and okay, fair point with you until now. when you look at anything, right? When you look at a vehicle, you always see that, okay, there is a short term investment, but some people, especially be it owners, or people who lease out electric vehicles, they always forego the short term risk of in the favor of long term benefits. So we've seen that there are lots of short term benefits when you buy an EV, vis-a-vis subsidies, etc. But what are the long term benefits, and more importantly, what are the long term benefits, let's say, for a single owner versus long term benefits for a fleet owner, in response to your earlier point of four wheelers or four wheeler EVs making more sense for fleet owners at the moment?
So, Kedar, you and I would be individual owners. And for us, the benefits are simple. We get less taxes, we get income tax benefits, we get subsidies, and we get to show off a cool new technological marvel that we have purchased across with our friends. But the bigger benefit is for those who are fleet operators. Let us say I am a fleet operator with 200 plus vehicles. It could be any domain. It could be two-wheeler, three-wheeler, four-wheeler bus, or even a truck. There, the benefit is very high because my entire business is based on maximum operations. And if my business is operations based, I will only focus on the operating cost, the per kilometer operating cost. And if that is going to be the major game changer, I will definitely focus on electric. Typically, because one, the operating cost is very low. Two, I get benefits in terms of a business benefit, to actually say that I am a net zero focused company and I'm taking an electric vehicle into my fleet so that I can contribute to the global net zero narrative, to the global sustainable mobility narrative, which also helps you to get your environmental taxes, etc., rolling in a different way. And also, the third way to look at it is the carbon credits model. Right now, these models are evolving across the world. But if you are an operator who is looking at a fleet which is offsetting a certain amount of carbon through renewable energy that powers your electric vehicles or other ways, you are actually going to benefit with the carbon credits initiatives which are going to come in the future. So, all in all, of course, for individual owners, the benefits are huge. But when we talk about the fleet owners, the benefits skyrocket, quite literally.
Awesome. No, and that is sort of a very bullish and optimistic outlook on not just the short term, but also the future or the long term benefits of owning a vehicle. So on that note, Sahil, it's been a great chat today. Thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you so much for giving us some of your crispy inputs on the future of owning a vehicle.
Thank you so much, Kedar. That was a pleasure.
And for all of our audience who've tuned in today, don't forget to follow us on LinkedIn and on Instagram. Share this with all of your friends and other mobility enthusiasts. And we'll see you again soon on another episode of Crispy Perspectives.